Well, as mentioned in the last video, right now we want to transform our data. So we have found out that here are some things that are not perfectly, um, and we want to change these things maybe. So let's go to the Transform Data button here. If you click on it, a new window opens, which is called the Power Query Editor. And that's how it looks like. Well, here you can do the transformations. And well, we have here on the left side the queries. For each table we have in our Power Query data model, for each table we have a query here. And the query is used, or first of all, it stores all the single steps that are needed to import and transform the data. And Power BI does it like that in order to redo these steps again in a later point of time. Because right now we have some data in the Excel file, we can import it, and we have the data in Power BI and build a report on it. But maybe in a couple of days or in a month, we have new data or change data or whatever. And then we want to do the same thing. We want to do the same steps and we don't want to do them manually. So that's why we have these queries with the steps. And anytime we want to refresh the data, we can, if I go to the main page again, we have this refresh button here. You just click on it and all the steps and all the queries for all the tables are again done by Power BI, and then after that you have updated your data in the tables. So that's why we have queries, and that's why in these queries all the steps are stored. Well, left side queries. In the middle, you see some data. That is preview data. That means you don't see all the rows from your data source. I think it is about 1,000 rows from the data sources. And on the right side here, you see the applied steps. So we just loaded this Excel file or this Excel worksheet. And the result is that we have 4 steps here. So first step is the source. If you click on source, for example, here we see some kind of command, and it's a programming language which is used in these queries, and this programming language is called M. And in M, there's a command which is called excel.workbook, which opens an Excel workbook. You see here, we have the file name, for example, and we have the complete path where this file is located in your file system. And what we see, well, I clicked here on the first step, and what I see right now here in the preview screen is the result from the beginning with until this step. And this step also is performed, and we see the result, well, after that step. So result of source is that we have a result table where we see some sheets. As you can see, Datenschulung is a sheet in this table. So next step is the navigation. Navigation, if we remember, we have to select the sheet we want to see. And you can see it here, source, and here it is sheet Datenschulung data. And the result is that we see the data of that sheet. So we see from line 1 to 441, we see the data from the Excel file. The first line in the Excel, some column names, and the column names that are used right now in Power BI, we see here. Column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and so on and so on. That is what the columns are named right now in Power BI. The next step is called promoted headers. And for example, if you click on this one here, use first row as headers, you add this step to your query, but that was done in this example automatically. And promoted headers means that the first line of the Excel data is used as column names in Power BI. So right now we don't have the names column 1, column 2 up to column 8, but we have the names which were in the first row of the Excel sheet. So if I just click on navigation, you see it, sale date goes to column 1 here right now. That's what's done here. And then the final step is change data types. We see the data type is the symbol in front of the column name. So ABC123 means that there is no specific data type set to the column right now. So if you want to change it manually, just click on it, and then you see the data types you have in Excel, and then you can decide for one of these data types. Depends on what you expect should be in the column. So if you say a product number, it's always a number, then it's a good idea to say, well, we set it to whole number, for example. Which means that Power BI checks whether in this column there are only whole numbers. If you have some rows where there is, for example, a character in this column, then this row has an error, and then you can decide later on what to do with it. For example, delete it or change it or whatever you want to do. Well, but that's the behavior if you set data types to the columns. But which is pretty important because some columns you want to them that they hold, for example, numbers. If I take a look at the price column or quantity column, later on we want to use these two columns for calculating the revenue, and calculating, multiplying, I can only do with numbers. So it's crucial that we have numbers as well in the price column and also in the quantity column. If we have characters here, we cannot perform this calculation for that row then. So that's why we normally set the data types, that Power BI checks the rows for data types. If an error occurs, well, I have to deal with it in what way ever, but at least I know that there are errors then. And that is also done automatically in this case. So if we go here, change type, right now you don't see ABC123 as a symbol, but for example, here we have 123 because this is a whole number, or 1.2, which is a decimal number, or ABC, which is text, or this calendar symbol, which means that it is a an date or a timestamp column. And well, you can see, the preview, you can take a look at it for each step. So if you're on the last step of the list here, then you see the result after all steps are performed from this query. So this is pretty helpful. Maybe you are missing here the undo change functionality or button, what you normally have in other applications. It's not here. If you, for example, if you want to remove one of the steps, just click here on this red cross. I will show it later on. And also, if you want to change some properties of the steps afterwards, for example, the source, if the file name of the source file has changed, you can, well, you can change it here if you want to, or you can just click here if you want to have a dialog for doing these things. You can just click here on this preferences symbol here, and then, for example, here you have the opportunity to, for example, browse where the file is located right now, or change the name here or whatever. So this is possible here in these properties symbols as well. So that's pretty much how it works here. So maybe we should do some examples. Maybe the following. We have the sales channel number, for example. For me, I don't really need it right now. And for the charts, we probably use the sales channel, where we have a text for the sales channel and not the number from 1, 2, or 3. So maybe we can delete it here. You can just click on this column. You can, for example, click here the remove columns button, or you can right click on the column header and then say remove. And right now you see the column is removed, and you see here in the applied steps list, you see the removed columns command right now. And if you right now decide, well, this was a mistake, I maybe need this column, you can just click here on the little red cross, and then this step is removed here, and you see the column again here. So, but in this case, I want to remove it, so go away. Well, another thing, if you want to have a different order here, you can just move these columns. So I've just dragged and dropped the price column here to the quantity, and you see reordered columns. So for all the actions we are doing here, there are steps added to this list here. So right now, if, for example, let's say we want to do a small calculation, I've said before we maybe need the revenue as a calculation. And well, we can take a look here. There are several options what you can do. So we had the remove columns thing here, but there are two other menus, transform and add column, which are quite interesting. And if you, for example, go to the transform here, you see something like some basic calculations here on this standard calculations button, add, multiply, subtract, divide, whatever you want to do. And right now I want to do the following. I want to, well, take the price and multiply it with the quantity. And here it is right now, it's not possible, but if you go to the add column, there it is possible. Well, what's the difference between transform and add column? Well, some of the commands from the transform menu are also in the add column menu. And the add column menu means you're performing the transformation and the result is stored to a new column. That means if we take the multiplication from the add column menu, what we will do right now, then we will calculate the multiplication of the two columns, and it's stored in a, well, in a new column. So that's what we will do. I go here and just say multiply, and you see we have a new column with a result. And this one I can rename. So I can just right click on the column name, and here we have rename, and I just say that's the revenue. So we have the new column here with the result of our calculation. Another example, maybe sales channel. I want to change these names here, and they only should be written with capital letters. So you could go to the transform, and we have this format thing here. And here you can decide lowercase, uppercase, capitalize each word, whatever you want. In my case, I just want to have it uppercase. And this time I will perform it from the transform menu, which means the result is stored within this column. Maybe I will show it with the add column. So if I go to add column, click on this column here and say format uppercase, you see it. We now have the result stored in a new column. But I don't want to have that, so I'll just delete it. I go again here on that column, go to transform, go to format and just say uppercase. And so we have the result here stored directly in this column. So these are some things you can do. What else can we do? We can do, for example, go to the home, or you don't have to go anywhere, it doesn't really matter. We have this drop-down menu here, and you can create filters, as you can do it in Excel as well. So for example, let's say we are only interested in the product 1, 2, and 3. I can just check these boxes here, and the others are unchecked. I say okay. And finally, I only see 1, 2, or 3 here in this column. So the effect is if I filter something here, you cannot use it later on in the reporting. So normally you just use these filters here in order to completely remove things you don't want to have in your reporting because you don't need that. For example, if maybe you have the data of complete 2024 and maybe a small rest from 2023, and you don't want to have it because you want to have the full year, then for example, you can create a filter here and say larger or equal to 1st of January 2024, and then you won't see the 2023 data any longer. So depends on later on in the reporting, in the visuals, you can also create filters, but there you can decide on what visualizations you want to have it or not or whatever. If you filter data out here, then you won't see it any longer in the result later on. So I will just remove this filtered rows step here. So now it's gone, and yeah. Well, another word on the data. The data with the Excel file is that the data is copied from the Excel file into the Power BI file. So all the changes we are doing here, they don't affect the source file. So our Excel file is still the same as it was before. So the changes are only performed here within Power BI. That's one important thing. But also if the data changes in the Excel file, nothing changes here. So in order to do that, you have to refresh the data by just clicking on this refresh button here. And then the data in Power BI is deleted and then imported again from the source file. So that's how it's working. So you can take a look here. There are a lot of things you can do here. For example, if I go here and say, product number 4 is not right, I want to have it should be the 40, then you have the replace values here. And value to find is the 4, replace it with a 40, for example. That's a transformation. Now all the 4s are 40s or whatever. That's a transformation as well. Just take a look at these options you have here. You have calculations here, basic calculations, trigonometry, rounding, scientific calculations. If you click on the date column, for example, you also have some date functions here. For example, you can extract the year from the complete date here or the quarter or whatever. It's pretty much the same as it is in Excel. In Excel, you have these functions, your formulas you can use. And while here you have all the functions in some hidden in some buttons in your menu here. So you find pretty much the same things here in Power BI. You just have to take a look where it's hiding. Maybe one last thing what I want to do, if I take a look at the product group here, as I said in the last video, I think, there are two things in it. One is the main product group, which is soft drinks or alcoholic drinks, and the other thing is the product group, which is lemonades, beer, or water. So right now I want to split this column, and we have the split column command here. Just click on it. You can split by, for example, delimiter, a number of characters, positions. There are a lot of options, as you can see. We will take the delimiter thing because, as you can see, we always have this minus character here and two blank spaces. So I just want to change it. So you can take a look here. Here is some standard stuff like a space or colon or comma, or we can just select the custom, and there you can, for example, blank space minus blank space, and that's pretty much it. I just say OK, and as you can see right now, the product group column is split into product group point 1 and product group point 2. Here we have soft drinks, alcoholic drinks, and here we have the stuff like lemonades, beer, or water. So one thing or last thing I will do here right now is rename the columns. So right click on the column name, rename it, and this we maybe call main product group. And this second one here we will rename to just product group. Well, finally, maybe one thing we can do, we can rename the query, and I will give it an English name. Training, what's that? Training data. So yeah, we have changed that here. And right now, the thing we have to do finally is we have to apply all the steps to all the rows within the data source. So right now we just see a preview. Normally it's up to a maximum of 1000 rows. Well, in this case, I think we only have 540 rows. You see it here. And well, the data is loaded. All the steps we see here are performed to the rows. And well, that's what we have to do right now. So we click here on File and we just say Close and Apply. Close is we are just closing the Power Query editor, and apply means we will just apply all the changes to all the data right now. So we do it. Takes a small moment. You see data is loaded and we are done. Well, depending on how much data you have, sometimes it takes a little bit longer or not. And then I will save my file. So I just click here and say I want to save it, or save as. I will browse. Here we go. Save this file. Maybe it's called training report, and I just say save to that location. That's fine. Cancel. Yeah, so we have saved it. Everything's fine right now. Yeah, so that's pretty much what it is all about with the transformations. As you've seen, there are a lot of other transformations. You can do it by yourself or figure it out by yourself. And right now, maybe one last thing. We can go to the model view, for example. If I, for example, go to the pricing column, we can set a data format. Within the Power Query editor, you only, set a data type. And here in the reporting front end, you can set a format. So we have decimal number and we want to have a currency. So we go to the format and say currency here. And then if you have currency, we can, decide a currency format. And there, for example, we could take the English dollar thing. So I've done that. I will do the same on the revenue. We have the revenue. I will set currency. I will select the dollar currency here and everything's fine. Another thing, the prices, you see this sum symbol here. That means right now, if you open the advanced button, there's a summarization function you can assign to this column. It's the sum right now, but in this case, we don't want to have one because we don't want to sum up the prices. We want to sum up, for example, the quantities and the revenues because that are our measures, and we want to just do some calculations on it. But the same with product name or product group, but there we don't have these symbols. These are just information which is shown as a context for our measures. So the same with product number. We don't want to sum that up. We just want to display it, maybe or not. So I will just click on product number, open the advanced section here, go to the summarize by combo box and just select none. And then right now, we have configured our data so far and we can start creating report pages in the next video then.